If you have been following my channel, then you probably know about my roller coaster of a journey with the Explorer 2 and how much I love it. Hello and welcome back to Wine on the Move. I'm Saqib. Today we are continuing the series I started of comparing the 5-digit Rolex references with their 6-digit counterparts. Last week's video was the first one where I compared the 16710 with the 126710. And in today's video, we'll be looking at one of my favorite watches and its current reference. I'm talking about the 16570 and the 216570. A quick shout out to Fabian and Chris who lent me their watches for this video. Check out their Instagram and give them a follow. The reason why the Polar dial 16570 is not featuring in this video is because it's still too heartbreaking to have it near me. I'm just kidding, I just couldn't get my hands on one to shoot for this video. Explorer 2 is easily the best value for money sport reference from Rolex. And I know people still say that it is underrated, but I tend to disagree, and so does the rising price of this watch. But we will discuss that later in the video. Now, even though I know which Explorer 2 I prefer, I still wanted to add this comparison video into this series, as there are many out there who must be considering an Explorer 2 but can't decide between the 5 or the 6-digit reference, and hopefully this video can help guide them. Introduced in 1971, the Explorer 2 was an addition to the Explorer model that was released in 1953. Explorer 2 was introduced as a tool watch for cave explorers. The first reference, 1655, featured an orange color extra hour hand which would help the wearer know whether it was day or night. This is an important feature to cave explorers who may become easily disoriented after long periods underground. Then in 1984, Rolex introduced a new Explorer 2, reference 16550. It had a white dial in addition to the black dial model. Other than switching to a sapphire crystal and a new movement, the shape of the hands also changed, especially the 24-hour indicator, which changed from a small red-orange arrow-shaped hand to a long and sleek red 24-hour hand with a white arrow at the end that was independently adjustable, meaning the watch now offered a GMT function. The reference 16550 is also occasionally referred to as a transitional model, as the reference 16570 was introduced in 1989. The 16570 would stay in production for over 20 years until 2011, with some changes to the looks and movement over the years. To mark the 40th anniversary of the Explorer 2 in 2011, Rolex introduced the reference 216570. In order to compare these two watches, I shall follow the same format as last week, looking at the case, the bracelet, the bezel and dial, the movement, and the price. The 16570 has a 40mm case diameter, while the 216570 has a 42mm case diameter. And of course, the new reference has a maxi case with beefed up lugs, crown, and crown guards. The lug to lug of the older reference is 47mm, while the new reference is 50mm. The 16570 is 12.2mm thick, and the 216570 is 12.5mm thick. The older reference has the preferred 20mm lug width, while the new reference has a 21mm lug width because of the bigger case. Both watches have the top of the case brushed finished with polished sides, and both references have twin lock screw down crowns. The new reference of course has a bigger crown given the bigger size. The water resistance offered by both these watches is 100 meters. As is the matter for all Rolex references with a maxi case, they are chunky and would not suit most smaller wrists, and this is even more so with the new Explorer 2 reference and its 42mm case. I prefer the nice compact look of the 16570. Even though the 216570 fits on my wrist, I feel because Rolex not only put it on a maxi case but also increased the case diameter to 42mm, in my personal opinion, it really would only suit wrists over 6.7 or so inches. But if you like bigger watches and find the older reference to be too small, then the new reference is a perfect choice for you when it comes to the case size and how it fits on the wrist. Both 16570 and 216570 are fitted with 904L steel oyster bracelets. The 216570 has slightly wider bracelets. Apart from the size, the new reference is also equipped with Rolex's EasyLink comfort extension. The link extends the bracelet by up to 5mm. This of course comes in handy for when the wrist expands due to humidity and temperature. This feature is definitely a welcome considering Explorer 2 is an adventure watch. The 16570 on the other hand has the classic flip-lock clasp. I prefer the new bracelet solely because of the EasyLink extension, but then again the 20mm lug width of the older reference is much better and preferred, as is the most common among watches and would not require you to buy new straps. Both watches have a fixed brushed stainless steel bezel engraved with a 24-hour scale. A benefit the Explorer has over the Submariner or the GMT Master is that the 24-hour bezel slopes downward, which gives the case a much slimmer look and feel. The bezel and the 24-hour markings on the reference 216570 is of course much wider than the older reference because of the maxi case. Now, because the bezel is fixed, you are unable to track a third time zone if you had the need to do that. And another downside of the steel bezel is that it will definitely pick up more scratches on it compared to the Cerachrome bezels of the Submariner and GMT Master 2. But the positive of not having a ceramic bezel is that the watch is much more understated and would not catch too much attention. When it comes to the dial, the easiest way to tell these two watches apart is the GMT hand. The 216570 was launched on the 40th anniversary of the Rolex Explorer II, and as a tribute to the reference 1655, they took its most distinguishing element, the orange 24-hour hand, and applied it to the 216570. This is of course different from the 16570's red GMT hand. The other differences is the Explorer 2 name in orange on the new reference compared to the white on the older reference, and again the size of all the elements being bigger and bolder, including the Rolex crown, name, indices and the hands on the newer reference. I love the orange hand of the new reference, but it most definitely takes away some of the understated charm of an Explorer 2, but definitely improves the legibility of the GMT hand, not that the red GMT hand was not legible enough. Do note that you can find 3 different markings on the 16570's dials. The earliest models had tritium, then there was the transitional model with the Swiss-only dial, and then this Swiss-made dial with superluminova. The reference 216570 has chromalite with long-lasting blue luminescence. The new reference also has an engraved chapter ring. This can also be found in the post-2007 16570 reference. Both watches have cathedral hands and have scratch-resistant sapphire crystal with cyclop lens date window at 3 o'clock. The issue I have with the bigger reference is that the excess space afforded to it by the bigger case is just unnecessary, and the only thing that could be done is increase the size of the hands and the indices. I personally am not a fan of the bigger hands and indices, but understand why it had to be done given the case size. The 16570 runs on the caliber 3185 and later updated to caliber 3186 in watches produced between 2006 and 2011. The caliber 3185 is the first in-house Rolex mechanism to make the 24-hour hand independently adjustable from the hour, minute and seconds hand. The caliber 3186 meanwhile is updated with the parachrome blue hairspring and paraflex shock absorbers. Aside from being resistant to the effects of magnetism, it also gives the movement 10 times more shock protection. The reference 216570 on the other hand is powered by the caliber 3187. It's a slightly enlarged version of the caliber 3186. Both the caliber 3185 and the 3187 offer power reserves of around 50 hours. I personally had the Explorer 2 16570 with a 3186 movement, and I definitely prefer it because of its anti-magnetic capabilities and also because the caliber 3185, which is on most of the older reference, has a problem of wobbling 24-hour hand when setting the time. The retail price of the 216570 is $8,350 US. While it's not as tough to get as the other Rolex steel sports models, there is still a waitlist for the Explorer 2, but second-hand models, at least here in Singapore, are selling for just under the retail price. That is also unlike the other steel sports models from Rolex. The price of the 16570 on the other hand keeps rising, currently around $7,000 for a full set 3185 movement and $8,200 for a 3186 full set. These prices are for the Polar dial, and for the black dial it would be slightly lower. There have been instances where a second-hand new reference is selling for less than the older reference, which might show the popularity of the 16570. I've previously owned and sold two Polar 16570s, and I'm saving for a third and hopefully final one. So I'm clearly a fan of the older reference, but mostly because I prefer smaller case sizes, even if my wrist can handle a bigger case size. Just because I prefer the smaller case doesn't mean that the 16570 is not good. If you're into bigger watches, then it is still the best value Rolex stainless steel sports model out right now. And with that beautiful orange 24-hour hand, it is definitely a hit in my books. If you're looking to buy an Explorer 2, I hope this video helped you in some way. Let me know in the comments down below which of the Explorer 2 reference do you prefer. And do you like the white Polar dial or the black dial? Do smash that like button if you enjoyed this video, and also follow me on Instagram at wherein on the move. Until next time, cheers.